great day, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Gratitude today for our two amazing guests that we have here today, Ajaluna and Prince L, who will be sharing Abundant Life Blueprint with us. But before we go into all of that beautiful stuff about our energy, about money, about how we can be wealthy, how they do, okay? We're going to have them talk a little bit about who they are. So go ahead and share. We're going to start with Queen Kassandra Ajaluna Carr.
Hello, beautiful people. I am Kassandra Ajaluna. I have founded Ajaluno Wellness, where we are holistically aligning people with their mind, body, spirit, and their financial well-being. We do workshops, retreats, and incorporate herbs and all good things for you to achieve your life of abundance.
Awesome. Gratitude for sharing. Prince L.
Good day to the beautiful people out there. My name is Prince L, jack of all trade, master of none, and just excited to be here, sharing what we can in a holistic way for both health and finance. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm grateful that you invited us.
I am grateful that you all are here, but I want to say something because you said jack of all trade and master of none, but you are and you have mastered everything you have done. I'm just saying.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, right. I know a lot of bit about a little bit.
I have watched quite a few of your beautiful episodes of your own podcast, and I think the information that you all share has been amazing, right? And not only that it's amazing information, but it's necessary information that you all share. And I think that we all as a community need to know and understand the flow of money, the importance of being abundance, and not only knowing that abundance starts within. I'd like for you to share more about abundance life.
Abundant Life Blueprint really spoke to me when Prince and I decided to do something collectively. We both are kind of like one and the same. He's like the male version of me.
Mm-hmm.
And with the fact that we both work in the wellness space as well as in finances, laying out a blueprint is something that, people don't tend to do.
Yeah.
So just utilizing that name and pivoting to create a framework and to ensure that all questions, no matter what question, if you think it's stupid or if it's just something that you never had the opportunity to ask or find out about, we want to ensure that we created a safe space for that. And
Yeah.
I think that's what the Abundant Life Blueprint means to me ultimately.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And to veggie back on what Ajaluna said, a lot of the things that we discussed in our podcast on Instagram was mostly the different things that were missing, the big gaps, the bridges, or rather
Yeah.
just the roadmaps and blueprints to, like, okay, it's one thing to say that you want to be wealthy, but is your lifestyle, is your mindset, is your even your experience and relationship with money, if that's not
Yeah.
in alignment, then we can talk all day about it, but that's all we'll be doing is just talking. People need an opportunity to walk that life. And if there's anything that I think both Ajaluna and I have been able to do very well is share our perspectives, share our experiences, and like she said, create a space where people can openly express themselves and talk about, well, it's funny that you say that about this or you say that about that. And
Yeah.
I think that we're going to get a little bit more into that as we go. You're going to see more of how, you know, um, like one of the things that I think always helped us too was we would set a tone with affirmations at the beginning of every podcast, just
Yeah.
because people got to get into that mindset. They have to get into the vibration, the energy of what it means to be abundant. And if already you've got a radio station playing upstairs that's telling you, I can't, I can't, I can't, the first thing that we've got to do is change the radio station up here so that way it can start coming out a little bit easier.
I like that you start with an affirmation. That is so important to know because everything begins in the subconscious mind,
Yes.
right? And to piggyback off of what you just shared, how my life shifted, I had to make the decision to unlearn, to relearn, and to move. Because when we are raised in our community, I come from a background where it's multicultural, Afro multicultural. And I say that very clearly because I was born and raised in Panama, the country. So my first language is Spanish. However, my background is on my mother's side is Jamaican, fully, both grandpa and grandma. And on my father's side is Afro-Colombian, which is my grandma, and Barbados, right? So I was raised predominantly with the Jamaican culture because even though my father was in the home, the dominance was the woman, my mama, right? That culture. And unfortunately, it was lack mindset. So robbing Peter to pay Paul, which didn't have to be. I had to unlearn that.
Would you mind sharing like an experience of, because oftentimes that was also something that we would do is share how it is that we're educated in ways of
Yeah,
abundant mindset. So like what were some of the things that you heard like growing up that kind of shaped or at least kind of like set a foundation for your relationship with abundance?
struggling. My father's side of the family, the conditioning of the mindset is money flowing.
Mm,
My mother's side of the family, the conditioning of money is you have to be struggling.
mm,
You got to work 2, 3 jobs. Skip this bill to pay this bill.
okay.
That was that conditioning, right? Even though I had my father's side, the domineering one was my mother's side.
They,
So as an adult, I had, yeah, it's crazy.
they say
The dynamic
Jamaicans usually
of
have
work.
like 10 jobs or 10
That's the problem though. When I sat back and I thought about it, I was like, well, daddy only worked one job at a
Mhm,
time and money was always flowing. But then over here, everybody working 2, 3 jobs just to make what daddy's making. But that doesn't make sense, right? So as an adult, I had to sit back, analyze. It was brutal. It felt like, ligaments tearing off your bones. That's how that pain feels because it's a spiritual, right? It's spiritual
Mhm.
first. So
Yes.
it was painful to not only unlearn it, when you are realigning your mind, it starts in your spirit first. So you have to realign your spirit, which is something you're learning, right? As you are realigning your mind. That was
Mhm.
brutal. But then I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't give myself the opportunity to unlearn that behavior because it's a behavior that's learned. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be so, right? Just like you said earlier, Jamaicans are known to have 2, 3 jobs, but why? Why?
They're hustlers.
I think that aside from being hustlers, they're ambitious. You know, like this the standard for a better life is like at least amongst the Jamaicans that I come across. You know, Ajaluna included. You know, it's also counter the common narrative that we see in entertainment. Like we
Hmm.
see the majority of our entertainers are the people that we kind of look up to and say like, oh, that's someone with celebrity. They're doing one thing that seems to make so much money, and everybody else is like,
Hmm.
well, how do we keep pace with that? You know?
Yeah,
And then it's just like for me, I think it's also a matter of I'm gonna throw these darts at the wall and whichever one sticks, that's the one that I'm gonna stick with.
right.
And
So even with that, and you made a valid point. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with working 2 to 3 jobs, but I'm not going to work 2 to 3 jobs that's paying me $7 an
oh
hour.
no,
That's just not going to
oh
happen.
no, oh no.
You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But that's the conditioning is because if I can work 3 jobs at $7 an hour, that in their mind it's putting me at $21 an hour. But then you don't have time for yourself. You don't have time to breathe. You don't have time to live. You don't even have time to pause because you're working these 2, 3 jobs that's paying you $7 an hour, so you can wear the Michael Kors and the, whatever for when? Because you're working so much. When do you have time? You see what I'm saying? Okay, work the 2 jobs, but let both jobs be 70,000 plus, so that you're not putting too much work in to one and yet you're still enjoying your life. But it's like it's yeah, I had to unlearn that work because I was there.
I think you're
you
also
know?
kind of illustrating exactly why, like, Ajaluna and I were more adamant in advocating towards, I guess you could say, like, reverse engineering, if you
Yeah.
will, right? Like reverse engineering, like the place that you want to be financially, and then looking
Hmm.
forward to say, like, okay, what are the steps that I do to get there, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the parable of how the ant eats the tiger, right?
Yeah.
It's one bite at a time. But you
Absolutely.
got to have an appetite to eat, though. You know, got to
Exactly.
have an appetite to eat.
And that appetite to eat leads to you pausing to give yourself permission to unlearn.
Yes.
Because, like you said earlier, we can talk all day long, but there's no action to it. Because in your mind, you're playing a scenario, but physically, you don't have the energy to make that move, whether it's because of fear
Mhm.
or self doubt, whatever that purpose is that you're not making that move physically, it's because of your subconscious mind. Oh, I can do that, or only rich people do that, or only light skinned people do that, or only brown skinned people, or only dark skinned people can do that. Like we have so many scenarios of doubts in our head that plays like a record that we believe it, and that's how we move. But then we don't understand that the currency starts with us because we are the currency, right? So if
Absolutely.
your mindset is only these type of people can make that money, then how you expect the money to flow to you? It's gonna be stagnant. It's like God throwing the money and the money just bouncing right back up
Mhm.
because you're not open to receive it.
I think it's very important what you just said on you're not open to receiving. So many times people lack boundaries, and when they lack those boundaries, then they set into that mindset of fear and self doubt,
Yeah,
and then they're not able to receive those blessings. So many times they're like, "Oh, you need to pray for what it is that you want," and sometimes you don't get what you want because you're not ready to receive it.
absolutely.
And it is so important to ensure that you are cleansing your space, your environment. Sometimes people don't even realize that like you're carrying on the same people that are like filling your mind, the
Yeah,
same habits. And that's why you're not where you want to be because you haven't set those boundaries with yourself to
right,
ensure that you're on that path of enlightenment or abundance.
right. Absolutely.
Well, also, like, just to complement what she said, the fear aspect gets in there, right? And
Yeah,
it's that thing where, one, if your fear is so big, does it make space for everything else in your life?
right. That's a good question.
Right? Like, and then like reevaluating what it is that you actually want, or rather, not even what you want, but what you need. Those things right there by themselves, I think, help bring it more real into light for a lot of people. There's not a lot of people asking the question, or at least
Yeah,
bold enough to have that conversation. And so I think that that's
yeah,
why we see a stagnancy and a lack of, not necessarily progress. We're progressing, but we're progressing in ways that maybe don't socially benefit us as a whole,
right.
culturally. There are things that I think we could definitely like check. And like those are
Hmm.
things that, one, we have to say, like, okay, if someone saw me engage in this behavior, would I feel proud? Someone used to tell me, if your mother saw you do this, would she be proud of you? Would she understand where you're coming from? And a lot of that stuff I had to adjust.
Yeah.
But like Jamaicans, like Afro Colombians, like Afro Panamanians, because I'm around, a very diasporan, diverse community of people myself,
Hmm.
being indigenous and also well African ancestry as well.
Yeah.
To say that, my mother would constantly ingrained in me and my sisters, we come from kings and queens. She would tell me and my sisters, I didn't make average kids. You're not mediocre.
Right.
You're not stupid. Going out into the world, like, and even to this day, I carry that familial pride in me, to where other
Yeah.
people might say, like, that's cockiness, but you don't know my story. You don't know the
Right.
background that I come from. You don't know the things that I've had to overcome. But what I want to share with you is not the struggle, but the success. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I have children. That is another way of abundant life, right?
Yes.
Is that energy that we bringing into the world. And so for my children, because I didn't learn I didn't unlearn what I already knew as
Right.
I was raising them. Now we have to walk through for them to unlearn that behavior as well.
Mm,
So I brought in that behavior of lack mindset, fearful mindset into raising my children unknowingly. You believe that it's your norm
right.
and that's what it's supposed to be. So having those conversations with them had to flip because, again, to them it sounds like just talk. So I had to start doing it for them to see the action,
Right.
right? So that they can unlearn. And thankfully they following. I'm just not beating it on them because at the end of the day I realized that me trying to beat it on them wasn't working.
No. Yeah.
So I decided, okay, y'all adults, because my oldest is gonna be 30 next month.
Okay.
And I'm like, you can watch me grow, and then you gonna approach me and say, well, how the heck you doing
You
that?
know,
Because I want to.
hold up, because you were talking about I don't look like I'm 42, but you don't look like you have a 30-year-old. I was
Yeah, I'm gonna be 50 December
Go
29th.
ahead. We got to talk and exchange, some recipes or something. Because what you doing over there? But you know what? On Facebook, I see you do your walk. You get out there. You're moving. You're active. I think
Yeah,
those are like some of the habits that you're using or the things that you're teaching your children to unlearn from before. They see your example. It's gonna be kind of hard not to follow suit, live up to that standard.
it's true, but guess what? As a community, we doubt a lot. We lead with doubt. We lead with fear. And that's intentionally taught to us, right? My father transitioned last year, April 2nd.
Condolences.
Every day, my daddy was 93 and a half years old when he transitioned. He didn't look like he was in his 90s. Every day he walked for a minimum of 30 minutes.
Mm,
He did not speak. So that stayed with me. I was like, okay, daddy walking, I'm gonna start walking. Then I started walking with him. And then when he lost sight, then I was the one leading the walk
mm,
with him. Right? So it's like all those little things that I'm observing of my dad because now I want to cling to that energy. I don't want to cling to the energy of lack or of struggle. That's not the energy I want to cling to
right.
because learning the process of abundance and what abundance means and knowing that I'm the currency, I'm the energy that I
Yes.
need, that I desire, it comes to me first through my spirit. So if I don't understand that my spirit has to be in an abundant mindset so that it can flow into my physical, so that when I move, I'm bringing it in, then I'm going to still be
Come
wishing
on
I'm
with it.
rich, wealthy, and ain't nothing going to happen.
Come on with it. Come on with it.
You know what I'm saying? So me observing that of my dad is what helped me to start my process of unlearning. Okay, this is what I saw. That don't mean that it has to stay recorded in my mind. Let me release that energy. So I would do fasting, right? There were so many times I did 30-day fasting intentionally. So I would set the intention, okay, I'm releasing this energy, I'm releasing this memory, I'm releasing XYZ.
Yes.
And every day that I will wake up for those 30 days, because I wrote it down, I will read it, what I'm releasing. And then I will drink my water. I will either meditate, I will either play one of my sound bowls. You know what I'm saying? I will either be stretching in my yoga and saying it, what I'm releasing, because you sending that information out into the abyss so that your ancestors can help you.
Yes.
You're not by yourself.
No.
So I need help, y'all. And I talk to them just like that. Sometimes people look at me like, you crazy. No, I'm not crazy. You're building a relationship with your ancestors because they still around you.
Yes.
They already know who you are, how you act. They know I'm crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's all of that. It's knowing that you are the currency first for it
Bro,
to flow to you.
you brought up a very good point when it comes to the awareness of our ancestors. And like, I think that that's also important to recognize when we think about our mindsets of abundance.
Yeah,
What were the principles and concepts that our ancestors held that made them great prior
yeah,
to somebody else's date in history, right?
exactly,
Like what were the things that our ancestors were so and world renowned for that made people from other countries go to visit them, see
exactly.
what they were doing, wonder and
Abs-
like and mirror their technology, which we're still marveling at today. There are lots of technological advances in just this modern day alone that many of us couldn't live without, that require our
Right.
recognition. And it's important that we start recognizing the value of our intellectual property, because we're talking like things as simple as the stoplight,
Yeah.
the refrigerator, the computer that people are probably watching this podcast on right now. These are all
Yeah.
inventions that come from people that look like us. You know, like
Absolutely.
our people were mathematicians. They were engineering geniuses. They just created,
Correct.
right? But now in this modern day, what is it that we can say we're creating that comparably is going to be what we're going to be known for in the next 100 to
Yeah.
200, 5,000 years? You know, where people can look back and say, oh, yeah, back in the year 2025, this is what this group of people were creating, right?
Right.
And I think that it's important that we think about the importance of legacy. Yesterday, Ajaluna and I, we went to this event, and one of the thoughts that came up in my mind was an old oil painting hung above the
Hmm.
fireplace,
Hmm.
right? Like, will people remember our names later on in our life, in our families' lives? Will they be happy enough to say, "Oh, great great grandpa Prince wrote a check for me that I'm still able to cash today"? You know, like, oh, thank.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember your great great grandparents' name?
No.
My great grandmother's name is Lucille. Was Lucille Yale.
Okay.
My
Okay.
my grandmother, who was an indigenous woman, right?
Hmm.
Whose family had migrated from the Carolinas to Oklahoma, then to Texas, who, later on gave birth to my grandfather, right?
Hmm.
Left a legacy in the state of Texas and in the states of Oklahoma. And it's
Okay.
because of that legacy that it's important, not only that I know it, but also that my children also know this. Like my mother is our family's historian. And I think that this is
Hmm.
something that probably, like, individually, collectively, we start doing again. But because, like, it just
Yeah.
shows like how rich our
Right.
heritages are, right? But she would, take me and my sisters, and we would do family reunions like almost every year or every other year. And like that, those are the reasons why I can still say, oh, I remember my grandmother Lucille, I remember
Yeah.
my grandfather Clarence, because
Yeah.
they left something of great value for me to still appreciate in this day and age, and to the point where my mother wouldn't let their legacy just be ignored.
Yeah.
So
That's beautiful. Ajaluna, have you had the same experience?
Say, not necessarily knowing my grandparents per se, but just, for instance, if I start doing another activity, for those that know me, I have a multitude of things that I do. Sometimes I wonder, like, why do I feel like I have a calling to do this? And then I'll talk to like my parents and they say, oh, yeah, my grandmother used to do X, Y, and Z, or this is why, like, I have a
Yeah.
calling to do that. And it's just very interesting that sometimes you're just led to
Yes.
do something. You know, a lot of times it's the divine creator, and sometimes it's just your ancestors cheering you on
Yes.
to let you know that the direction that you're walking in is correct and that you
Correct.
should have no hesitation. I think a lot of us lack that understanding and that ability to hear those voices. You know, we think we're going crazy, but in
Right.
reality, it's just someone giving you a pat on your back, saying like, "It's okay, baby girl. It's okay, baby boy. You doing what you need to do." And there is no hesitation there. Keep
Yeah.
fighting, keep moving forward. I would say one thing that my parents have always told me is to
Yeah.
do better than them. And I'm like, say less,
Right.
because the ambition is there, and wanting to just always make sure I have a roof over my head, food on my plate, and just being able to travel wherever I want is
Yeah.
going to happen.
And period. To piggyback off of what you just shared, I don't know of my great grandparents because my parents were older. I don't want to say old, but they were older.
right.
My dad was born in 1930, and his father was born, I want to say it was like 1901
Mhm,
or something like that. I don't know my paternal grandpa.
mhm,
I don't know much about his family history. However, I always felt that there was a regalness. Couldn't understand it, don't know where it was coming from. I just felt that, right? And I always had a sense of creating community. So one day I was sitting by myself, I was at the beach, and I was like, man, I wish I could buy some land and build a community where there's a hospital, there's a grocery store, there's homes, one car per family. And then if they had any cars, they had to park outside of the community so that the vehicles didn't taint the air. Like I thought about all those things, right? And then I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Didn't think anything else about it. Years go by. And then I find out that my maternal grandmother, their family was so wealthy that they created a community. I said, shut the front motherfucking door. So that was her speaking to me,
Right.
unaware, because at that time I didn't understand much about spirituality and the ancestors. I didn't know anything about that. So when I learned all of that, and then I'm sitting by myself again, and then out the blue, I think one of my cousins called and we were just having conversations, and that came up. And I said, okay, I said, okay, grandma, I hear you. Like you said, Ajaluna, they're speaking to us. But if we can't decipher, we just gonna act like we crazy.
I have a second cousin, couple decades removed, who used to
Hmm.
say, I freed 1,000 slaves and I would have freed 1,000 more if only they would have known that they were slaves, you know? And she used to carry around a shotgun with her just in case somebody decided to get a little wild, a little rascal,
Right.
you know? Because on this journey to freedom, there's only so many people that you could take with. And it's so important that, like, especially, not to say that, especially in this month, and this is part of the reason why we try to, success leaves clues. Let's just leave it at that, right?
Yes.
It's important to understand, especially in this month of September, how important legacy is, because our ancestors, regardless of where it came from, we're losing that legacy. There are so many
Yeah.
people in our community and across the United States who are leaving behind their assets, their hard work, their legacy in the hands of the people who don't care about their legacy, right?
Because they don't understand it.
And that's part of the work that we're doing, is just like planting the seed of abundance. Now we can start thinking about the trees that become,
Yeah.
the roots for our families, the generations to come. I want to be a fruit that didn't fall too far from the tree,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I want that for my children. I want that for Ajaluna's children. I want that for your children. We have to want these things for our
Absolutely.
community. You have to say, like, as a community, hey, have you done your estate planning yet? For all the time that you spend away from the thing that you're paying the most for,
Right.
and the people that you are looking to support the most, what's your plan if something were to
Yeah.
happen to you, right?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to be comfortable with allowing others to create platforms that benefit from our suffering?
Technically, I was born and raised in the hood.
Mhm.
And I say technically because in the hood back then, it was class, right? You
Yes.
have the lower class, then you have the middle class that the family worked,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you had the high class where family worked and then they did more.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I was on that type because my father was also a professional baseball player and he worked for the Panama Canal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even though all that is happening, we live where only Black people could live. Hood mentality
Mm-hmm.
is we ain't shit. We just gonna be surviving. We gonna figure it out. We just gonna rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
That's hood mentality. And the problem with that is when you have that mentality, you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe that you got power, right? So when I work with children, um, and I don't even want to say underserved community. You know why I don't even want to say that? Because we have so many resources that we don't tap into.
Absolutely right.
And the sad part about that is that the resources are in the community, but they don't get up off their ass to let the community know that it's there. I don't see it because I was there. Because that's a whole different conversation that we got to have. And then I tell these children, because I'm a teen life coach as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I let them know because for some reason they put me on this pedestal. And I said, no. I said, you're going to put me on that pedestal. You right next to me. And
Yes.
I'm going to tell you why you're next to me. Because you got magic within you. The only reason my magic is shining and yours isn't because you haven't tapped into yours yet. So let's tap into that bad boy.
Yes.
That's how, and that's how I get them to move the needle, because they got to understand that whatever mom told them, you ain't going to be shit, because that was told to me too. You ain't going to be shit. You ain't never going to be shit. You got to unlearn that,
Yes.
because that becomes a recording that they hear within themselves, even though they want to progress.
Right.
Right. Which is why I said it comes in the spirit for the physical for you to manifest it out here.
We talk about the hood mentality. Let's go ahead and readdress who it is that our youngsters are seeing in the hood that are the most successful. And
Right.
this is something that Ajaluna and I discussed on our podcast. When
Right.
our youth walk out their neighborhood, who do they see go work hard? Moms, dads, grandparents.
Grandparents.
How are they dressed? Are they, uncomfortably, right? Like, how do they get there? They struggle to get there. But then, in contrast, because again, it's
Mm-hmm.
hood mentality, who do they see
Mentality.
doing the least amount of work, making the most amount of money? Failing to realize that that high reward has a high risk, and
And a high cost.
and that's that high cost. They don't, how many brothers and sisters have we lost to the penitentiary system because
Right.
somebody didn't stop and say, okay, what is it that we are actually missing in our neighborhoods? Obviously, we can produce. We're industrious. It's not a problem for us to
Right.
make money, but how do we make money and grow it? How do we protect it? Where's that conversation at with the young man or the young woman at 13 and 14 years old that says, hey, you're about to turn 15, you're 3 years away from being an adult in this society. Your mom and your
Exactly.
dad is not going to be able to cover you and protect you. You're from underneath their covering as an adult. What's your
Yeah.
game plan? What kind of life do you want? Do you want to live like the way that your parents did? Do you want the resources that they had? And I think that it's difficult for a lot of our youth. I guess this is also a good time to mention why the last couple of months, Ajaluna and I have not been as active with our podcast, is because
Mm-hmm.
she's been working with moms,
Yeah.
bringing new life into the world. I've been working with the youth. She is the female version of me because right now we're two ships going in the opposite directions of each other. She's saying, I need to get deeper into wellness. I'm saying, I need to get deeper into
Yeah.
the finance. And this
Yeah.
it's a beautiful collaboration that we have where we get to like bring up these types of topics to people.
Yeah.
What's your 10-year game plan? If you could save $5,000 a year for the next 20 years, because that's how long you want to work for, but
Right.
it's a lot of money that you save up.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? Who's going to get it?
And you're not even paying attention that you saving that up, right? Because it's just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. So I'll take it a step further. When I started my after school program in 2018, I was working at a private school, K through 12, in the underserved community. And the reason I started the after school program is because the children came to me and said, hey, Miss Franklin, you're the only one that really listened to us, and we want to have conversations about, our lives and what's happening wherever. Would you be willing to teach a class? And I was like, oh, I'm not a teacher. I said, and I don't think that's something that can be added to the community. But this was my mindset, right? So I said, but I tell you what, I don't believe it can be a class that we can create right now because the school year already started. Not to say no, but I want you to understand where I'm going. So she said, okay. I said, you gather your folks, think about what it is y'all want from me. Over the weekend, I'm going to think about how I can come up with a solution. Came back on Monday. She came to me. I didn't even have to go to her. And she said X, Y, Z. I said, okay, what about an after school time? Can y'all stay back an hour? I can stay back. That's how the after school program started. And of course, a memorandum of understanding was signed and all that good stuff. But to be in that space where they're sharing that they want to be successful, but in the household is less. Me having to show on the board what it is, because now they started to complain, oh, the Spanish people coming into our community and taking it over. I had to break that down so that they can understand why Spanish people are coming into the community and taking over. There's a unity, regardless if they like each other or not. There's a unity with them to make this happen. So now with you, You have to figure out what it is you want in your life, which is where I came up with your personal GPA. What's your goal? What's your plan? What's your action? Right? So the few that stay back, because you always gonna weed out people that are really committed and folks that aren't.
Right.
The few that stay back are not successful today. To the point that I had one reach out to me earlier in the year on Instagram. Somehow he found me on Instagram and he was sharing how he has a family now. This is where he's working. This is the business that he's building. Coming from a mindset of, oh, the hood shit
Oh,
abundance. So it made me feel like what I was doing, if you save one, you save many,
So
yes,
right?
absolutely.
So it makes me keep going. So now I'm a teen life coach and I take my responsibility seriously. Yes, I joke with them, but I meet them where they're at. And if they're slipping, I bring them right back up. Because when they're slipping, they feel like they're a failure. No. Is anything really failure? No. You're just learning from it because you really never fail at anything.
that's how most people become successful, is by failing.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You know what that taught me is that when you think they're not watching or listening, they're watching
Yeah.
you.
Eyes are watching.
Because he was the one that gave the most problem.
Mm,
And I'm putting that in quote because we act out based on where we're at, how we feeling, what we're receiving, right? But he was the one listening. And one of the things he said is, you never spoke down to me. He was like, Miss Franklin, you never told me that I caused too much problem, even though sometimes I would do it.
mm.
This was another child, I'm sorry, not the same one. Even though I was doing it on purpose, you will give me that look and I'll shut up. Did you notice that? And I was like, yeah, I noticed. That's why I kept giving you the look. I truly appreciate that I answered to my calling.
Mm,
Because for so many years I ignored it. I'm just gonna be honest. Because of fear.
mm,
Because of fear. Because of self-doubt. Because you hear who you think you are. You hear that a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so that plays on your self-esteem. It's stored in your conscious and unconscious mind. It's stored in your body, right? Because the body keeps the score. The
Body keeps
body
the
keeps
score.
the information,
Yes.
whether you believe it or not, right? And so all of that plays a part in how abundant we are in life because it starts with us. So to bring it into a close, Ajaluna, what is one thing you would like to want to share with someone that's listening today?
I'm just going to start with an affirmation, just like we would do on our podcast, and just know that you are a money magnet, and whatever it is that you want to attract to you will come to you effortlessly, endlessly, and abundantly.
It also comes frequently, and so much so that you can share it with others.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ashe. That's another thing that we got to understand. We don't have to hoard the information because there's so much abundant for everybody.
Yeah.
Gratitude for being here on our show. Gratitude,
Thank you.
listeners. Gratitude to our community. This is truly a great conversation because awakened living with Yali Giovanni is truly what this is about. It's not with the Yali Giovanni, but with the Yali Giovanni is because I too was once there.
Mm,
And I know the sacrifice, the hurt, the pain it feels as you are transforming your life from lack into abundance and actually believing that you are the magnet of the money that you desire and that you want.
Yes.
Gratitude for being here with us. Where can our listener and the community find you all should they want to reach out to you?
And yes, you can find me at www.ajaluna.com or at Ajaluno Wellness on all social media platforms.
And you can find me on Instagram at its_PrinceJL, as well as
Awesome, gratitude.
on Facebook as well, and LinkedIn.
Awesome.
You can also find me there.
And I am Yali Giovanni. You can reach me at yaligiovanni.com for any information you need. You will find it there. And if you have any questions, you can press on the contact now and we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Once again, gratitude for joining us. And I hope this was helpful to you. Have a great day.